This episode of Shaun of the South is brought to you by Case Knives, a tradition of my family dating back to my granddaddy, the fisherman, the woodcarver, and the Southern Baptist, who always said the best cure for idle hands is to build something. So keep your hands sharp with a Case knife.
Hey, you're listening to Shaun of the South. That music here behind me right now is Appalachian Trail, everybody. Appalachian Trail.
Of you, I'm like a lonely prisoner serving his time, thinking of the days when love was true, but you and another this morning at 9. This morning from a lovely dream, and I looked across this lonely room of mine. Somewhere in the distance to me it seemed church bells were ringing this morning at 9. Bitter tears I'm shedding all because of you. I'm like a lonely prisoner serving his time, thinking of the days when love was true, but you and another this morning at 9. When I realized you never could be mine, then I remembered what day it really was. You and another this morning at 9. Bitter tears I'm shedding all because of you. I'm like a lonely prisoner serving his time, thinking of the days when love was true, but you and another this morning at 9. I'm like a lonely prisoner serving his time, thinking of the days when love was true, but you and another this morning at 9. Yes, you and another this morning at 9.
I'm going to read you a little bit of our mail today. Tom Roberts from Holyoke, Massachusetts writes, I inherited a puppy this week, a basset hound. My brother gave it to me because he's getting deployed and can't raise it. He hadn't even named it yet. I told him, what kind of a dork doesn't name a dog? He said he couldn't find a name that felt right, so I've decided to name the old guy Barney Fife, because of you naming your dog Thelma Lou. So I guess that means they go together. Hope to come see your show one day in person. My wife and I enjoy listening to you every week. Sincerely, Tom Roberts. Maria Riles, Vancouver, Canada. Shaun, I listened to your show up here in Canada, and I had a friend of mine join me last week to listen while we ate lunch and played rummy at the kitchen table. We all giggled because of the way you Americans talk. It's funny to me. You ought to come up here to Vancouver sometime. You probably think we talk funny too, but we are good people with our own unique sort of culture. I think you'd like it up here, though you probably would want to get poutine. Poutine. It's French fries with cheese curds and brown gravy on top. It's a Canadian thing. I bet you will mispronounce it when you read that name over the air. Dear Maria, you just witnessed my mispronunciation, but regarding what you wrote, it's a deal. Come on down here and get you some hog head cheese and butter beans, and I'll go up there and get poutine, and we'll call her even. Philip Northerly, Atlanta, Georgia. There was this woman who called me late one night by accident about 15 years ago. She was looking for a man named Daniel who promised to give her a ride to class sometime. Daniel had been my roommate, but not for a long time, and he moved out, and he was just kind of a weirdo. Anyway, he gave this girl his old phone number, my place, on purpose because he wasn't that into her, and I guess I'm glad he did because we hit it off right away. Gave her a ride to class every day for 3 years after that. We've been married this year for 15 years, and I've been trying to think of something special to do for her, so I thought giving her a mention on your show would really make her day. You can just say happy anniversary to Phil and Anna, and that'll be good enough for me. Thank you in advance. Dear Phil and Anna, and our millions, well, thousands, well, to our 12 listeners out there in Radio Land. Happy birthday. Oh, I'm sorry. Happy anniversary, not birthday, but happy birthday too, right? Here's to a healthy 50 more years of marriage or more. Derek Jensen, Fort Wayne, Indiana. Sean, I'm a leather craft worker, and I've been doing it since I was a 10-year-old. It helps me relax and take my mind off other things. I'm an engineer by trade. I need all the relaxation I can get. But I take in work from all over, little jobs just to pay for my hobby. The strangest thing I've ever been asked to make was a vest for a parrot. This woman wanted her bird to have a vest so she could attach a leash to him and take him out in the public. But that's nothing compared to my latest order. My latest order is what I'm making now, and it is a pair of leather underpants. It's a gag gift for a woman who's marrying a cattle rancher. They're older folks in their 70s, and she wants him to have pants that are made out of leather. The only thing is, he's got a 40-inch waist. And these things take a lot of leather, and they're costing more money than you think. Also, I'm supposed to stamp his name out on the seat of his pants, along with a picture of some cattle horns. I guess there's a first time for everything. I sure wouldn't want to wear these things if it were me. Sherry Kent, Pensacola, Florida. Hey, Sean, I'm thinking of buying a motorcycle. I know this isn't the thing women normally do, but I've always wanted one, and who said men are the only ones who get to have all the fun? I've spent my entire life being a girly girl, and I'm ready to go out and do something for me. I went out pricing bikes the other day, and holy cow, they are so expensive. I could have a brand new house for the cost of a new Harley. Did you know that? They're nice, don't get me wrong, but I just don't have the cash to spare, so to make a long story short, I went to Walmart and I bought a Schwinn bicycle. And I wear my Harley-Davidson t-shirt while I ride it. If the universe should ever decide I will need to win the lottery, I know how I'm going to spend it on a Harley-Davidson. Tori Martin, Irmo, South Carolina. I was on a fishing boat with my husband yesterday, and he caught a big old fish. I watched him reel it in and measure it, and then I watched him smile like I'd never really seen him smile before. He's been going fishing since he was a 3-year-old boy, and I never really thought about how much it meant to him until just recently. We're in our 40s, and we have kids, and we work a lot, and I'm glad he took me fishing. It's the first time I've ever been with him out there on the boat, and it made me feel really glad to see him in his element. He cleaned the fish when we got home, and we had a fish fry listening to a record of Louis Armstrong, and it's the simple things in life that make me happy, and it kind of reminded me of one of your stories. Please read this on your show if you can. My husband listens to your show on the way to work in the mornings, so tell him thanks for taking me fishing. His name is Larry. Dear Larry, did you get all that? Thanks for taking your wife fishing. Joanna Beal, Lawrence, Kansas. Hi, Sean. I'm an English teacher, and I have to say, when I listen to your stories, I think to myself, man, this guy uses improper grammar all over the place. I have to say, if you ever need speech training so that you can clean up your language, I can teach the correct usage of him and I versus me and him. It's really not that hard. Once you get it, you won't sound like such a hick after hanging out with me. Dear Joanna, I have to say that's just about the sweetest dadgum thing a body ever told me. If you ever come down here to these here parts, we'll go frog gigging, and you can teach me a whole mess of them their fancy words. And then maybe for once in my life, I can do a good day's work and act like somebody. Sincerely, your lovable hick, Sean Dietrich. Grace Necco, Missoula, Montana. I'm 79 this year, and I've never 79 this year, and I've never loved the show more than I loved Andy Griffith. And I had an idea I wanted to run by you. What if you did a show in honor of Andy Griffith on his birthday, which is actually June the 1st? I know what a fan of him you are, and I am too. In some ways, we kind of do the sorts of same things Andy did, if you think about it. We live simple lives, and we have simple pleasures. Anyway, if you did a show like that, I would listen and I would share it with my friends, I promise, because the world needs more Andy Griffith and less reality TV shows about nothing. Dear Grace, what an idea. Happy 79th year to you, and happy birthday to Andy Griffith. And let's have another tune from Appalachian Trail. Appalachian Trail, everybody.
Back, I was riding on your handlebars. Wind blowing through my hair, you were kicking up some dirt. Well, I had a crush on you, and I think you kinda like me too. And we catching lightning bugs and running, laugh and act like fools on a country road that ran up to my home place, where the lights shine like heaven stars. I never thought that I'd ever see your face back here in my town on this country road. We'd turn the radio up and roll the windows down. Well, I know it's been a while since then, but who would have ever thought that we'd be who we are right now, and thinking about the good old days on the country road that ran up to my home place, where the lights shine like heaven stars. I never thought that I'd ever see your face back here in my town on this country road. I'm still the same as I was then. Seeing you still makes me smile like I did when I was 10. Country road that ran up to my home place, where the lights shine like heaven stars. I never thought that I'd ever see your face back here in my town on this country road. Country road that ran up to my home place, where the lights shine like heaven stars. I never thought that I'd ever see your face back here in my town on this country road. Here in my town on this country road.
I think one of the lost arts from a long, long time ago, one of the lost arts that has disappeared from this culture is whistling. You don't see many kids whistle anymore. It's kind of disappeared along with the old ways of playing the accordion. Nobody plays the accordion anymore. But whistling was something old men did, and they didn't have to have a melody in mind. They could just... There was no real plotted course to follow. You just whistled. And if you didn't whistle enough of a melody on a job site, maybe one of your friends would say, "Would you cut it out?" But if you whistled a melody, a familiar melody, So if you were to whistle something like, "You make me happy when skies are gray," you're not making any enemies when you're whistling a song like that. Or if you whistled, oh, that kind of song would remind you of all sorts of good things. Things like summertime, because the opening scene of the Andy Griffith show, where that song hails from, is a summer scene where Opa is walking barefoot carrying a cane pole, and Andy Griffith, still wearing his deputy uniform, is whistling while walking alongside his son, who every now and then picks up rocks and skips them on a summer pond on a summer day in the midst of a summer world. This is the kind of weather that makes me want to get out and be in nature just as much as I can. I don't know what it is about it, because the truth is, summer is the most unpleasant time of year there is for the human body, especially in South Alabama, Northwest Florida, South Georgia. It's a hot time of year that is unnatural to live in. It's a time when the sun beats down upon you like something out of the book of Revelation. It's like sitting inside of an oven and letting that hot, scalding heat bake the salt from your body and take the soul from your chest and kill you slowly. It bleaches your hair. It turns your skin a fine shade of red. If you're a redhead like me, 10 minutes in the sun and you've turned into a boiled lobster. And yet, it is the time of year that I would love to go spend time outside. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's the tilt of the sun and the way it hits the earth. It's different than the way it hits the earth in the wintertime. In the wintertime, the sun is just a little bit further away, and it's a little bit dimmer. And you never feel like the world gets fully cranked in the mornings. You see, I'm a late sleeper, always have been. I have a hard time waking up before the crack of noon. I have a hard time getting started in the mornings. And so it takes extra sunlight to get me moving. Because in the wintertime, that lack of sunlight makes me feel like I could sleep until perhaps 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Summertime is when the yellow flies come out, at least in our part of the world. If you don't know what a yellow fly is, then you ought to count yourself as blessed of God, because a yellow fly is really just a little messenger from the underworld to remind you that Satan is actually real, and he wants your body and your soul, and he wants you to spend an eternity at your lake house on the lake of fire. A yellow fly is a little thing about the size of your thumbnail, and when he lands on you, he will sacrifice himself to give you 24 hours of hell. 24 hours of a taste of what it feels like to live in Gehenna, down with Beelzebub, where the worm dieth not, and where reality television never dies. Yes, the yellow fly will bite you, and he will leave a little mark on your body that is a red welt that will begin to swell. If he bites you on a small extremity of your body, that small extremity, such as a pinky finger or a pinky toe or your earlobe or I can't think of anything smaller than that. This is a family show. If he bites you on that part, it will swell up to an unnaturally large size, and you won't be able to bend it. I was bitten on my pinky a few days ago while I was out barbecuing a beer butt chicken at my barbecue grill. I love beer butt chicken. It's a very simple recipe which comes to me from my uncles and from the people in my family who used to man the barbecue grills. I come from a long line of barbecue grillers and horse thieves. And one of our most signature dishes was a beer butt chicken. And I'm cooking beer butt chicken out on this grill. The sun is shining. It's the most beautiful summer life has ever granted me. And a yellow fly lands right on my pinky, and he bites me, and I swatted him. My pinky swole up to about the size of a grown man's leg. I couldn't even move my arm, it felt like, because I had so much weight in that pinky. My wife came outside while I was checking on that beer butt chicken, and she looked at my pinky and she said, "What happened to you?" I looked at her and I felt this tingling in my face. She said, "My God, you got a yellow fly on your lower lip." And I swatted my lower lip. But the yellow fly dodged my hand, and he landed on my earlobe, and he bit my earlobe, and I swatted my earlobe. And then he landed on my nose, and my wife said, "Hold still." And she looked at me. She reared her hand back, and she came down on my nose so hard that it knocked me backward a few feet. Of course, she didn't hit the yellow fly. He's a lot faster than the hand of a human being. I looked like a cartoon character. My lower lip was so full of antihistamines and swollen fluids of whatever it is, pus and blood, that it was hanging down to my belly button. And my pinky had surpassed my own body weight. And my nose was about the size of Bozo the Clown's, and my earlobe was hanging down to my hips. I was in a real state. I walked inside, and on the way inside, I had been bitten another 5 or 6 times on my feet. I found my way to the recliner, and I sat down, and my feet were swollen, and my lip was swollen, and my whole body felt like someone had beat me with a Louisville Slugger. And I flipped on the television. And there was Andy Griffith. Andy Griffith. Dear God, I have passed much of my life watching the goings-ons in Mayberry, USA. I have seen just about every episode there is, starting with the very first one, where Andy refers to Barney as his cousin. I've seen the episode where Otis buys a cow, and he's riding that cow through the center of town. I have seen the pickle story, where Aunt Bee makes a batch of pickles, 8 quarts full of pickles, which are kerosene cucumbers. I have seen the episode, Barney's last episode, when he left after 5 seasons of glory. And then I've seen the color episode years. Those are the years when Andy Griffith went to color TV and everything just changed. It turned into another creature altogether. I can't watch the color episodes, but there are a few color episodes which are worth watching. Barney Fife comes back to Mayberry in a few episodes in season 6. And he comes back in season 7 too for a few episodes, and those are like watching a Gaither homecoming take place in Branson, Missouri. It's just a whole lot of dripping honey, feel-good stuff crammed into one tiny television screen. And I sat there on this chair and I watched Andy Griffith. It was the episode where Andy is considering leaving Mayberry for another job. And Barney doesn't want him to go at first. At first, Barney is resistant to this idea, but Andy convinces him that Barney could be sheriff. Barney's attitude changes, and he decides perhaps it might be best for Andy to leave Mayberry after all. I love this episode. It's wrought with laughter and moments that make you smile. Moments that make the inside of your chest feel warm. When that episode was over, another episode was rolling, and it was the episode where Otis Campbell, the town alcoholic, the lovable drunk who lets himself into the prison cell when he's had a snootful, has a brother visiting from out of town, and he wants to impress his brother, and so he has sent letters from the sheriff's office which has mistakenly led his brother to believe that Otis Campbell is a deputy instead of the town drunk. And Andy, in his merciful, kind-hearted way, decides to let Otis wear a uniform and make him a deputy for as long as his brother's in town. It's a heartwarming episode. It has plenty of laughs. It has plenty of moments that will make you think of happy things. After that episode, there was the episode of Opie and the Birdman. Opie and the Birdman. There was the episode of Opie and the Bully. The episode of Opie and the Bully is an interesting one. It's a one where Andy Griffith teaches his son how to stand up for himself. So Opie, taking his father's advice, goes into town. He accepts his punch like a grown man, and he lights into that bully, his bully, like a windmill in a tornado. And that's the lesson. Today you could go to jail for telling a kid to light into somebody, to stand up for what is right, and to take a punch on the nose. No, today we would send our kids to detention, and we would help them talk it out, and we would give them exercises to do and workbooks with multiple choice questions on it, and then we would suspend them from school for 4 or 5 days, I guess. But that's not the world Andy Griffith came from. Andy Griffith's world was a different world, and I like that world. I like that world so much that I start to imagine I'm still part of that world when I watch an Andy Griffith television show, especially in black and white. I start to see things in my dreams when I go to bed. God help me. I start to see that old downtown and that courthouse. I start to hear Gomer Pyle say something like, "Golly," or "Shazam." And that is the best Gomer Pyle impersonation I can do. I start to think about things in a little bit different way. I start to think about what life used to be like before things got so politically correct. I start thinking about the days before our cell phones were always at our hip, before you could use your thumb to order an entire basket of groceries delivered at your house by Amazon Prime. Or I start to think about what life might have been like when churches didn't have those big white screens behind the pulpit projecting all the lyrics to those 7-Eleven songs that are so modern and popular today. 7 words, 11 choruses. At least that's what my aunt calls them. I think about the days when churches were wooden buildings with wooden pews and wooden ceilings meant to reverb your voice across the slick surfaces. I start to think about what it used to be like to just sit outside of a filling station and drink a bottle of knee-high or Coca-Cola. There was one such filling station not far from my childhood home. It was called Peevler's. My friends and I, or my father and I, would hike through the small patch of woods to get to Peevler's from the behind. We would arrive, and there would be stacks of black tires out front, and there was a single garage, and there'd usually be one car up on a lift. And my father would reach into a cooler and get a Coca-Cola, and he would eat a honey bun or a package of peanuts. And we would sit on the porch on these metal chairs, the kinds of metal chairs everybody's granddaddy had sitting on the front of his porch or in the back porch of his house just by the barbecue grill, where he would make beer butt chicken for a long, long time. Those kinds of chairs that rusted in the rain. They were made of metal, and they were meant to rock ever so slightly. And I'd watch my father talk with Mr. Peevler about this and that and the other. Mr. Peevler was the same man who sponsored our baseball team. We were called the Peevler's Pump Boys once upon a time. He bought our T-shirts and our hats, and we were left responsible to buy our own pairs of white cotton pants. That world isn't so far away from us if you think about it. It's only a handful of decades behind us. It's not unreachable. Little country stores and little one-lift filling stations with coolers of Coca-Cola out front. Little places out in the woods with crooked steeples and faded clapboards. And little places that sing old songs like Just a Closer Walk with Thee, or Savior like a shepherd lead thee, or pass me not, O gentle Savior. Little places that feature knitting groups, or Kiwanis Club meetings, or Rotarian meetings, or little bunco clubs, or little places that have potlucks or covered dish socials. These places aren't far away from us, not nearly as far as you'd think they are. When you remember what it was like to chase the creek through the woods, or sit in front of a filling station, or what it was like before you had a leash on. You see, my aunt, she's from the old world, and she calls her cell phone a leash. It's because whenever there's a text that comes through your phone, you're obligated to answer this text. It's just the way it goes. When that text hits your eyeballs, the proper decorum is to pull your phone out and thumb text a reply back as soon as you get it. To fail to do this is to be rude. But in the days of Mayberry, and if you got your friend on the phone, you did. If you didn't get him, you didn't. There were no leashes in those days. Maybe your friend was gone. Maybe your friend wasn't at the house. Maybe your friend was out at the filling station, sitting on one of them old metal chairs, drinking a knee-high or a Coca-Cola with peanuts inside the Coca-Cola. Maybe your friend was off fishing at a small fishing hole, fishing with a cane pole, just listening to the sounds of the frogs and the crickets in the air. For all you know, maybe your friend was dodging yellow flies like a real champion, making beer butt chicken and getting the absolute bejesus bit out of him with nothing but yellow flies. You never know. You never know. But there are old things and there are old sorts of ways that are still with us. And Mayberry really isn't that far away. Not if you don't want it to be. Happy birthday, Andy Griffith, born on June 1st. I loved your show, and I loved everything about the black and white days. The black and white days that you were a part of. But more importantly, I liked your whistling. Thanks for listening to Sean of the South. I've been your host today, Sean Dietrich, and it has been a true pleasure. Hope you join us next week. That music you heard behind me today in honor of Andy Griffith's birthday was Appalachian Trail Bluegrass. Vicki Austin, Tommy Austin, Alan Hughes, Glenn Rose, and Ashley Davis on the fiddle. These guys aren't just good, they're good. A collection of folks from Northeast Tennessee that can get your feet stomping, and that's probably why they've been invited for 3 separate times to appear on the public television series Song of the Mountains. To find anything more about what they do, visit AppalachianTrailBluegrass.com. While you're there, I hope you drop them a line or tell them how much you like their music and pick up a copy of their new album, Always on a Mountain. Available for purchase at CD Baby or on iTunes or from their site directly. To find anything more about what I do, you can visit SeanOfTheSouth.com. While you're there, I hope you drop me a line because I love to hear from my friends. Send me your wedding announcements, birthday invitations, and bar mitzvah announcements, and I'll do my best to read them over the air if I can because I love to do that sort of stuff for my friends. And speaking of friends, I hope every wrinkle on your face denotes where a smile usually is. Adios.